a lot that you're all here and participating. And it's left. Everybody turn it off? Okay. This question, what would you change about the city if elected? Specifically, one real idea you have to change the city, not, better roads, or I guess what they're saying is they want something specific that you would do, so. Randy, you first.
Thanks. I've alluded to this already, but the one change I would make is more green spaces and better parks. We have some good parks, but we need to make them better. And I think it would be nice to drive down Dixie Highway now and then and see some green space instead of sidewalks, instead of blacktop, instead of concrete. I want to see our city look better, and that's a big part of it. I want to see our city have a better feel of a community, and not just something you drive through. I think green spaces, parks, those sort of things are what makes a city into a home. They're what make a city a community. I want us to be more of a community, and I think having more of those green spaces, more of those parks, better parks. I talked about the Veterans Park I'd like to do. I'd like to see dog parks. I think we can do all these things. We've got the space, we've got the money, we've got the ability, we just need to have the will.
So something that is one of my biggest accomplishments as a city council member was the implementation and creation of the police social worker. We worked with a family that was on Glenna Court. I'll tell you a little story. They had a hole in their roof, and they didn't have funds to fix the hole. Okay, they were getting citation after citation, and it wasn't going to be solved. Okay, there was an issue. So what we needed to do was truly understand why they had this issue. What was going on within their house? So what I did was I reached out to St. Vincent de Paul. And what St. Vincent de Paul does is they have a Vincenzi program. Basically, they go out and they do a home visit to understand what's going on. They do a holistic review of what's happening in that home. Is there food insecurity? Is there child abuse? Is there potential domestic abuse? They look through a number of different issues that could be potentially happening. So we want to make sure that we're understanding when there's a hole in somebody's roof, or the grass is not being cut, or any number of issues. There's a difference between I can't and I won't. So in this particular situation, it was they can't. They don't have the funds. So with working through St. Vincent de Paul and the Butler Foundation and Deer Park Roofing, which is a fantastic Erlanger company, we were able to get them a new roof, downspouts, and gutters on their house. But what it did was created this idea of having a citizen advocate in our city. Somebody that was going to be looking at these situations and going out, doing a home visit, understanding what's going on. So it's not just for codes enforcement issues, but fire and EMS, repeat callers, child abuse situations, domestic abuse situations that the police department see. And what we were able to do with working with tremendous community partners, with NKU, their social work department, the Alexandria Police Department, the police department came together with the fire department, codes enforcement. We got everybody together and built this position. Now she is hired. She is an amazing part of our team. She impacts the community one single person at a time. She helps each family, and it's so impactful. I want to see that program grow and grow and flourish. She has so many opportunities, and we just need to support her. What I want to see is an angel program. So heroin is an issue. We know it. What are we going to do about it? So something that's already going on in Alexandria with their police social workers, an angel program. So basically it's a peer-to-peer mentoring support system. I want that in Erlanger. I want to be able to provide that support to our citizens. Because it's not going to get solved by us sitting doing nothing. And Becky Strauss, our police social worker, she has the knowledge, the expertise. She has been in the Cabinet for Health and Human Services for many, many years. She's got the resources. She can get people into rehab very quickly, and we just need to build that program.
And this is something I talked to the mayor about. I promise this was not my question, it came from the audience. Erlanger has 12 council members, the most in northern Kentucky, and that is a lot. The question is, a more reasonable number, 5 or 7, would seem to be, better represent the voters. In the absence of that, how would you as a mayor deal with 12 different personalities? I guess that would be the, first of all, do you think that's too many? And secondly, if it's going to be that way, how would you as the leader of the city deal with 12 personalities? I hope there's
Actually, less than that.
One.
Yeah, there definitely is 12, no doubt about that. So it is a rather large council, so it is difficult to come to a consensus. But we are a very diverse city, so I wouldn't necessarily say automatically that we need to cut down the number of council members, because we are a growing city and very diverse. The way that you handle the personalities is education. So anything that I have accomplished over the 2 years that I've been a council member is I make sure that I'm educating the council members on an idea that I have. I'm extremely transparent. I'm transparent with the council members, with Mayor Hermes. I'm extremely transparent with citizens. So for example, Stevenson Road story map. On November 13th, I put out an email to all council members. At that exact moment, I put out a note to all of my Facebook followers on my candidate page. Or it wasn't candidate at that time, just council page. Because I want to make sure that I'm sharing the ideas that I'm having. At the same time, we as council members represent you. So you should be informed just as much as we are. So November 13th, put that email out to council, and I put the message out to the citizens about this idea of a story map for Stevenson Road, and trying to get our point across to the state that this was an issue. Having a visual representation of our need based on traffic studies, visuals, the videos, and testimonials from our citizens and our business owners. So I sat in the Lou Knoll Symposium. It's a part of the King County Mayor's Group meeting, when our 2 representatives from PDS gave this idea. They gave the buttermilk pike example for the Stevenson, or the story map idea. After they were done, Tricia and Emmy from PDS, I went up to them. How can we get on the schedule? This is something that we need in our city. We need to be able to utilize this amazing resource that PDS offers the cities at no cost. And we got on their schedule after I discussed it with the mayor, city administrator, council, all in agreement, and we got on the schedule for February. And it's now complete, and we have funding.
I do not feel that 12-member council is too large. We have a city of 18,000 people. That's less than 1 member, 1 council member per 1,000 people. So I don't think it's too large. It's unusual, certainly, but it works. We've been able to get a lot done in this city, and I think the 12-person council is a good part of it. One thing I really like about the 12-person council is this. If you have a small group of people, it's a lot easier to filter through a bad idea because it doesn't get subjected to as much scrutiny. But if you got 12 people, you got to persuade a majority of 12, you better have a pretty good idea, and you better be able to back it up, because there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked. So I think the 12-person council works for Erlanger. In terms of making it difficult to come to consensus, I have not experienced that in my time on city council. Actually, I've been very impressed with how frequently we do reach consensus. We have a very agreeable council in the sense that we all work together well, at least most of us. And I think it won't be difficult for me as mayor to build consensus. As I said, excluding myself and Mrs. Fetty, 9 of the 10 council members are supporting me. I think that indicates right now my ability to build a consensus right now. And how to handle the various personalities. There are various personalities on council. We all look at things differently. We all have different points of view. We all have different life experiences. And to me, that's a good thing. Because if everybody's looking through the issue, looking at the issue through the prism I'm looking at it, you're not hearing as much. You're not seeing as much. You're not getting all the points of view. But I may have my point of view because it's shaped by what I've done in my life. And then another council member has his or her point of view, but that's shaped by what they've done in their life. And there's a lot of times I've sat in a council meeting with an opinion on a position, on an issue. And I hear so-and-so say, one of the council members say, well, what about this? And it's changed my mind. If we had a small council, that may not happen. So I think good decisions get filtered through a lot of people, and that's where you build the consensus. So how do we deal with those personalities? Respect. That's how I think we deal with them. Treat each other with respect. Recognize that we are diverse people. Recognize that we will have our differences of opinion. And despite those differences, work together to try to reconcile those differences, come to a conclusion, do what's best for the city. I think we do what's best for the city by one thing, keeping our eye focused on what is best for the city. Not what I want, not what you want, not what somebody wants, but keeping our eye focused on what's good for Erlanger. If we do that, consensus follows.
I'd like to point out that some of you may wonder why we didn't have the council candidates here. Well, there are 16, and it's really difficult to get 16 people. I know that Ms. Betty made a concession tonight to be here, and I'm sure Mr. Blankenship did as well. So, you know, the point was made that maybe it's not fair if some of them are allowed to be here and some are not. So we just thought there's no way we're going to get 16 people here on one night. so we just had to, you know, kind of, we're a small organization trying to fill a void that really is being done in the community. So anyway, that's why we don't have a council forum as well. I'd love to have it. I encourage you guys to reach out to them on your own and find out what their positions are. And maybe in a couple of years we'll be in a position where we can do that. Or maybe the guy who had the idea to cut the number of council members might get his wish, and then it's even easier. Under our current mayor, our Erlanger taxes went down, but with the changes of our dispatch, our county taxes went up way more than what we saved. Why? I've been in on some of these meetings, I know why, but I would like to give the candidate an opportunity to explain that as well. So,
My first. No, I can tell you why they went up. The county didn't exactly do what they promised. They promised a certain rate, and it keeps changing. It's kind of a moving target. And that's caused a lot of things. But we have made the city taxes go down, and I think we're going to continue making them go down. Unfortunately, as city council members or as mayor, we cannot control what the county does. Dispatch is an extraordinarily expensive thing, and that's one reason why we went forward with the consolidation. They were mandating basically a conversion to a certain digital type format, which would have cost the city millions and millions of dollars. It reached a point where it was not feasible for the city, despite I think that most of us had the desire to retain our dispatch, but it was just not financially feasible. So I do think in time it will be a savings, but there's been this massive conversion to this new format that's going to cost the county a great deal of money, and unfortunately that whenever you do improvements, somebody's got to pay for them, and that's going to be this county.
Just to add to Randy, I mean, you summed it up very well. But with the change in dispatch, right now, Erlanger charges a 3% franchise fee. That has been allocated all the past years to dispatch. So ultimately, if we aren't having a dispatch any longer, we need to eliminate that tax. There's no need to have a 3% franchise fee if we don't have that service any longer. You've seen the King County taxes increase, and I agree with Randy. We don't have control over them. I really wish we had some kind of say, because the county seems to be increasing our taxes unnecessarily. But what you also see in your King County bill is a new fee for dispatch, and it's a per unit fee. So you're getting that per unit fee through the county now. So we need to start looking at the 3% franchise fee.
This is one of my questions, and it was prompted by one of the things that you guys talked about. The redevelopment of the showcase parcel. When Amazon announced the $1.4 billion project in Boone County, we wrote a story in the next day. I thought, how is anybody going to have a problem with this? Well, by 9 o'clock that next morning, I got 5 calls from people in the Oak Brook neighborhood saying, we moved to Oak Brook because it's nice, quiet, secluded community. Now we're going to have hundreds of cars going through our neighborhood, but what's that going to do to traffic? And for as long as I can remember, people have been saying, you know, when is Showcase going to be redeveloped? When is it going to be built? And as soon as that was announced, we got the calls saying, yeah, but I can't get from 75 to Donaldson Road now. What am I going to do about that? What do you guys say to those projects that seem good, but there's always been alienating? How do you deal with that sort of a challenge, I guess, as an elected official, as the face of the city? And not specific to that kind of.
So you don't want necessarily an answer to the traffic?
You have an answer to that, you're ahead of me. I think that's more of a state issue that the city could contribute to, but I still think there are going to be those issues that come up that seem like they're good for the city, and you think you've done the right thing, and then you still have to answer, you know, how do you deal with, I guess, a problem that's been alienated part of your community?
Okay. Okay, so just to talk about the showcase cinema property a little bit. We need to make sure that our infrastructure can handle the development. So that means we need to have a tremendous relationship with our state representatives and our senator. We need to make sure that we are communicating properly our needs as a city so that we are looking at infrastructure issues. When we're talking about an issue that is the other part of your question, one of the most recent topics that we had to deal with was the selling of the List property on Nelson Road. That was a very, very difficult topic. I live off of Nelson. I live back of Lakemont. I love that farm. It's gorgeous, beautiful. But we needed to make sure that we were allowing the property owners to do what they wanted to do. We were luckily afforded the opportunity, because of the zone change that they were wanting to do, that it came in front of council. So we had the opportunity to work with Dries, work with our citizens, sit down and understand what are the issues and how can we make positive changes to the Dries development plan that are going to answer your issues, that are going to take care of the problems that you might arise when the development goes in. So that's what we did. We listened. We had multiple council meetings, committee meetings. I sat with many citizens at their homes. I had some at my home. I made sure that I was listening to every single citizen and trying to build a development plan with Dries that was going to work for everybody. Try to make consensus. So some of the changes that we made were, a lot of the houses along Narrows Road, they were very concerned about looking right out their window and missing their view. They didn't want to look right at a property, a building. So we built into the plan they have to build greenery and build in trees and shrubs and a sidewalk all along Narrows Road. Then the other issue was down, when you go down Mesa, the houses that back up to the property, they were concerned about losing their privacy. So we had them build a plan where there was going to be a screening all the way down the back of the property. So another citizen, she needed she doesn't have, she has a septic tank. So we needed to make sure that if she ever wanted to transition to, having a sewer, that she had the right of way to where she could actually put that in. So we built that into the plan. So, when you're dealing with an issue that is, no issue is easy, but making sure that we're building consensus and listening to every citizen as much as we possibly can. And, it's easier to say no. But if we can figure out a way to say, yeah, you do have a valid point, let's figure out how to make it work.
My last answer I said about building consensus among council it stems from treating them with respect. I think it deals the same way with building consensus among our residents. We need to treat them with respect. We're not going to make everybody agree on every issue. That is simply an impossibility. You've got a city of 18,000 people. A number of folks are going to disagree with the decision no matter what you do. And although we worked hard to reach consensus on the List Farm property, there's still a number of folks that are not very happy with us. And, that's part of making decisions. Every decision you make has the ability to offend or annoy somebody. And that List Farm is a good example. The Showcase Properties is a good example. To me, I am thrilled to see that property redeveloped. I'm thrilled to see the jobs coming in, and I'm thrilled to see the revenue the city will generate as a result. But I was walking door to door in Cherry Hill the other day, and there's some folks there that aren't real happy about that because they're worried about traffic, and rightfully so. And that's an issue that has to be done. The mention was made of developing good relationships, with our state representatives. That's absolutely essential because many of these things are not city controlled. They're city and state jointly. Donaldson Road's a good example. That's a state route. Stevenson Road's a good example. It's a state route. That's why when we started working on Stevenson Road, Tom Cahill and Corinne Vitz were in charge of that committee. And one of the first things they did was to help to approach State Judge Executive Knockelman, and they approached State Senator Chris McDaniel, and they were able to obtain good funding in the state budget for that project, and then later that storybook thing came along. But everything you do has a chance of bothering somebody. Simple as that. These are good examples. All you can do, I think the main thing that stems from is this: listen to folks, hear their concern, let them know that maybe you're not going to agree, but make the right decision. And again, as I said before, keep your eyes focused on what's good for the city, and ultimately people will understand even if they don't agree. Because you're never going to have 100% agreement when you represent a city of 18,000 people. Just let people know they're being listened to and they're being treated with respect, and most people come around to your way of thinking. Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to put the ball in your court. We're running over. And I'll stay here till they kick us out because I love seeing a community so engaged. So do you guys want to continue and ask these last questions we have, or do you want to wrap up? You want to continue? Consensus? Great, thanks very much. What have you done specifically to help specifically small businesses currently in Erlanger, and what do you intend to do to help attract more small businesses?
I am absolutely in favor of helping small businesses. I have one. So absolutely, anything we can do to help small business is important. One thing we've certainly done is we have enacted a payroll tax incentive program, which I think certainly encourages the development of business, it encourages the hiring of new employees, and absolutely we need to be looking at those things. I think the other thing we've done to help small businesses, we've worked on zoning issues. We have looked for ways, when a business comes to us with a zoning request, we look for ways to see if we can approve what they're asking for. And generally, we've been able to do so. And I think we work hard to do that. And that's one of the, I mean, you hate to see artificial zoning requirements stand in the way of a business expanding if that's what they need to do. So I think between our use of zoning, we can certainly encourage small business. Through the use of tax incentives, we can encourage small business, and we've done both of those things. And I certainly think we need to continue that.
As a small business owner myself, I understand that it's not easy to run a small business. There are a lot of intricacies that you really have to know. One of which is an occupational license. I would love to be able to work with the county and figure out a way to unify, reduce the amount of occupational license. So for example, if your company goes into other cities, neighboring cities, you have to get an occupational license for every single city. That's a burden on not our large businesses, but that's a burden on our small businesses. They have to make sure that they are tracking constantly every single location that they're going into and how much work they're doing. So we need to start working with the county, making sure that we are impacting our city, but we can make bigger impacts. We can try to figure out how to better the entire region.
As I said that, I think they are about ready to kick us out. So. I would ask you it's almost 9 o'clock, so it's understandable. Much like you did with the first group, I would ask if you could address these 2 points in your closing statements if possible. There's a concern that, you guys have both worked hard to improve streets and sidewalks while you're on council, but individual properties, some neighbors are not as good as neighbors. They don't maintain their own property, and that gets to be a very touchy issue. My house, my yard, my cars, and my lawn, things like that. But again, for the greater community, that can be a problem. What would you do to address that? And what's your view of a single county government, consolidation of services, or scale makes things cheaper? So some people believe that there has been a move towards consolidation. The 911 is an example of that. So I'll give you guys an opportunity to wrap up, and if you can address that, and if you choose to, fine. And that is really the best question we had, and we've had good points. You would be first, and then whatever else you want to say, you close.
Okay. Would you mind repeating the first question, please?
Sure.
Maintaining individual.
Yeah, there's, you guys have both done a good job with improving, streets and sidewalks, but individually, there are people whose
Okay.
properties are.
Personal property rights.
Right, exactly. Yeah, see? I should let you read.
Code enforcement.
So personal property rights are extremely important to me. Making sure that each individual person is able to do what they want with their land, as long as it's not negatively impacting anybody else. I'm going to bring up a topic that's going to be interesting. There was a woman. She came to me when I was running for council, and she brought to me the idea of having backyard chickens. And, I know that some people laugh, but you know what? Her issue is no less important, no more important than anybody else's issue. She deserved just as much of my attention as any other citizen in our city. No matter if I agreed with her, I wanted chickens, I don't want chickens, I cannot have them, it doesn't matter. It is my role and responsibility to make sure that I am getting an unbiased opinion. So what I did for her was, I researched it. I can tell you more about chickens than anybody on this planet. But you know what? It's all about personal property rights. And yes, her neighbors were just fine and dandy. with her chickens. She provided them eggs. Her chickens were her pets. And it was my responsibility to make sure that I was researching it to the fullest extent. That's my position on the legislative body of government. It is not my decision. I'm not the judicial branch of government. I don't hand down punitive. This is the legislative. I look at an ordinance, I research it, I understand it, and then I make an unbiased decision based on what I think is best for the city.